Happy Wednesday. Thank you for jumping on with me. Woke Wednesday. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So again, thanks for jumping on with me. What I want you to do right now is I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to picture slavery. Get a good picture of that. Hey, Anthony. Thanks for jumping on. All right, so do you have a good picture of slavery in your mind? You can open your eyes now. And what I want to ask you is, in this vision of slavery that you had, was it someone else that was the slave, or was it you? Was this picture in another time, or was it now? Was there a plantation or maybe cotton fields? Did you see shackles? Did you see whips? What did you see when I said picture slavery? Harriet Tubman said, I freed 1,000 slaves. I could have freed more if only they knew they were slaves. So today what I want to ask you is, what are you a slave to? See, I'm going to guess that most of you, when I said picture slavery, that you didn't picture yourself. So when I ask, what are you a slave to? It might be hard for you to understand. Thank you, Anthony, for that. Yes. I want you to understand that there are things holding you now. You are in bondage now. So what are you a slave to? Is it your 9 to 5, your job, your career, whatever you want to call that? And you might think, Aaron, I'm not a slave to that. Like I can choose to not go there. But I want you to think about it this way. It might look like you go into work, and by the time you get done with your shift, you're so exhausted, you can't do anything else. All you can really do, or all you choose to do, is come home and sit on the couch, watch TV, play games on your phone, whatever the case may be. Slavery to your 9 to 5 might look like, or might sound like, those Sunday grumblings. The Sunday blues is what I call it. Where on Sunday you already start dreading it. You're like, oh my God, I have to go back into that place tomorrow? That might look like feeling like you sold your soul. Now, I won't say to the devil, but it might feel like feeling that you sold your soul. Hi, Chima. Hi, Matthew. Feeling like you sold your soul. Are you a slave to your family or your kids? And by that, it's usually a schedule. So when you get home from your job, do you find yourself having to jump right into all this other stuff, helping with homework? Shoot, a lot of people are having to do that while they're on the job at home and helping with homework or schoolwork at the same time. But do you find yourself kind of stuck in this scheduling thing where you come home, you're helping with homework, you're having to run kids to this practice, this lesson, that lesson. You have meetings maybe that you have to go to for your kids. Maybe then you're cooking dinner, you're cleaning up for dinner. Where's your me time? Do you have me time? I don't mean sleep. And do you have enough me time? Is that me time what I call soul food? So for me, I always look at it as I need to feed my soul every single day. And I'm not telling you guys I haven't been here, and sometimes I'm not still here. I remember there were times when my schedule was so packed, and I only have one kid, but my schedule was so packed from the time I got up in the morning till 9, 10 o'clock at night that I didn't have me time. By the time I was done with everything else, I was so exhausted. And I know as parents, we're like, look, once I become a parent, my responsibility is to pour everything into this human being that I made. Hi, Zoe. That's my niece. To pour everything into this human being, right? And then I remember my best friend Chrissy saying to me, you can't keep making your whole life about Jordan. And I was like, what? And then I had other people ask, like, what are you going to do when she leaves? You're going to fall to pieces. And I was like, what? And it never really hit me that I had built my life so much around it. So yes, I had become a slave to this. Are you a slave to a mindset? That might be negative self-talk. You can't do this. You don't deserve this. What about this? You never finish this. What makes you think you're going to finish this next thing? Are you a slave to debt? Every dollar that comes in, you find yourself turning right back around and paying it off to someone else, and you feel like you're buried, and you're like, I am never going to get out from this, because every time some extra money comes in, we'll just say taxes or something like that, something happens. The car breaks down. The washing machine needs to be replaced, whatever. Are you a slave to debt or money? Are you a slave to other people's opinions or expectations? I don't even need to explain that one any further. Ice cube just fell out of the refrigerator. Are you slave to other people's expectations or their opinions? Are you a slave to your past? Are you a slave to poor habits? Maybe eating fast food too much. Maybe not exercising or taking care of your body enough. Maybe drinking too much. Maybe not getting up and just moving around, doing anything, not feeding your brain. So there are things. What is it that's holding you or keeping you in bondage? So last year, it was a little bit less than a year ago. It was last November. And my daughter was in a situation where she felt completely defeated. She was ready to give up. She felt beat down. And I, as Mama Bear, my first response was not the best response, because I jumped right on her side and I was like, yeah. And I was upset and mad with her. And then luckily I had somebody important in my life who said, don't you remember what we just listened to this last weekend? This is your opportunity to show her that she can rise above this. Okay. So that night when she was sleeping, I got out a pad of Post-it notes and a Sharpie marker, and I started writing affirmations for her. And I put them on her mirror in her bathroom. And then I thought, I know this. I talk to people about how we are the model for our children. What we do, our children will see and they will pay attention to. I don't have affirmations. So I decided to write my own affirmations that night too, and put them in my bathroom. And one of my affirmations that I wrote was, I will break every chain. This comes partly from a gospel song that I just love. And if I wasn't too nervous to sing in public, I would totally sing it for you guys. But one of my favorite gospel songs, Break Every Chain. So my affirmation was, I will break every chain. And see, I talked about this once. It's been a long time, so a lot of you probably didn't catch it. But when I do my affirmations, I read each affirmation enough times that every single word gets emphasis. I will break every chain. It's nobody else's responsibility. It's mine. I will break every chain. I will break every chain. Will, looking at that, I always think of, what is the movie, Lethal Weapon? I think it was 3 maybe, where he was like willing, I think it was, I don't remember which one, was willing the other one from dying. He's like, I will you. And so when I look at will, that to me is a very force of nature to deal with. I will break every chain. I will break every chain. I'm not going to loose that chain. I'm going to break it. I will break every chain. That includes the mindset and the negative self-talk. That includes being caught up in other people's opinions or expectations. That includes those family and schedules around my kids. Every chain. I will break every chain. So I want you to envision in your mind what a chain looks like. A chain is not a piece of rope. It's not a knot. Chains are made of steel. And steel can only be like, steel is a very hard thing to diminish. And so when I look at, I will break every chain, that's going to take some work, right? And then I've learned since then that when you write affirmations, you're not supposed to do them futuristically thinking like I will break every chain, but as if you've already done it. So now that affirmation sounds like this. I broke every chain. Let that sink in as I asked you to start thinking about, what are you in bondage to? What are those chains that are keeping you from getting to freedom? And I want you to just think about that. What are some affirmations you can write about that? Let me tell you about a slave, and you might have heard of him before. His name was Frederick Douglass. Hi, Corey. Hi, Christina. Frederick Douglass, you probably know about a lot of the stuff when he was, had escaped. But Frederick Douglass was a slave who had a bigger vision. He knew, like it was not a question. He knew that there was something greater for him. That that he was destined to do something more than what he saw. So at one point of his life, when he was about 12 years old, one of his master's wives saw this in him, and she decided to start teaching him the ABCs and decided to start teaching him. Sorry, I'm going to flip my notes over here. Decided to start teaching him how to read. And then her husband got to her and convinced her that slavery and education did not go together. So she took every piece of reading that she could away from Frederick, including her Bible. She took it all. But see, Frederick was determined. Like I said, he knew there was something bigger. So he continued to teach himself how to read by watching the white children, by paying attention to the men that he worked with. He continued to teach himself how to read. And then at one point, he was kind of loaned out to another slave owner. And when he was working, enslaved by that person, let's not call it working, it wasn't, he started teaching other slaves how to read. And at times, they say he had up to 40 slaves in these sessions where he was teaching them how to read. And this went undiscovered for almost 6 months, or around 6 months. And then the slave owners caught wind of it, and they said, we can't have this. We can't have them educated. So I'll just put it lightly that they broke that up. And because of that, Frederick was sold back to his original slave owner. And this original slave owner was known for being what they call a breaker, right? He broke slaves. And he whipped Frederick so much that he didn't even have time to heal in between those whippings. I want to get this right. Frederick said, it broke his body, his soul, and his spirit. Now, most of us don't know what it feels like every day to have your body broken. But some of us know what it feels like to have our soul broken or our spirit broken. This went on for quite some time. And then at the age of 16, one time, Frederick fought back and he beat his slave owner. And after that, his slave owner didn't mess with him anymore. Frederick eventually escaped and got to freedom. And after that, this is probably the part that you know, he wrote a lot of books, a lot of autobiographies. Hi, Brian. A lot of books and a lot of autobiographies. He became recognized for being this excellent orator. And in the North, people were saying, this is exactly the proof that we need to show, to really kind of just put aside that thought that Black people, African Americans, back then I'm not going to use what they called them, but that they can be educated, right? Because back then the thought was they are subhuman and they can't be educated. Harriet Tubman said, another from Harriet Tubman said, if you hear dogs, keep going. If you see torches in the woods, keep going. If they're shouting after you, keep going. Don't ever stop. If you want a taste of freedom, keep going. So I want you to close your eyes again. And now I want you to picture freedom. I want you to picture your freedom. I want you to picture you breaking every chain, everything that's held you back. What does it feel like? I really want you to get into that. I want you to really tap into what does that feel like to be free from whatever it is that's holding you back, to not have that negative self-talk going in your head anymore. Feel what does that feel like? To not have to go into a job where you feel like you've lost your soul. What does that feel like? To not be in bondage to what other people say to you or think of you. What does that feel like? Are there dogs coming behind you? That might be people from your neighborhood, people that you grew up with telling you, man, don't go do that. What, you changed now? You think you're better than us? Oh, you a sellout. Keep going. Are there torches in the woods? Do you see torches in the woods? That might be your past catching up to you. Keep going. Do you hear shouting coming after you? Keep going. How many of us have been so close before, and because of these bondages that we find ourselves in, we stopped? Slaves did this all the time. They tried to get to freedom, and they saw the dogs coming behind them, heard the dogs coming behind them, saw the torches coming behind them, and they stopped. Keep going. Think about what we leave behind, what you will leave behind. Just like Frederick left something behind. Think about what you can leave behind when you break out of whatever is keeping you enslaved. Think about what you're leaving behind for your children, the example that they can do it too, the example that they can overcome if they just keep going. Think about the legacy that you can leave behind, not just for your children, but for generations to come in your family. Doesn't that feel amazing? That's it. That's today's Woke Wednesday. Wake up. something or someone is keeping you in bondage. It's time to break that chain. Feel free to type anything in the comments. And if not, thank you for jumping on again today. This was a heavy one. I'm trying to think of when this one even hit me, because I have other things in my Woke Wednesday book that have been in there for a while that I haven't gotten to yet. And this one came up on me 2 days ago. And I was like, this is what I have to talk about. And I couldn't put, in case any of you were wondering why I didn't put in the title what the topic was today, because I know with everything that's going on in this world right now, if I put in the topic slavery, how many people would have jumped on? How many people would have seen that and been like, oh man, I don't want to listen to that stuff. Oh, we don't talk about that today? I hope this did something for you. As always, thank you guys for jumping on, and until next week, have a great rest of your week. Break every chain. Bye.